Hello, and welcome to the Sleepy BrainDose. Tonight, we invite you on a calm journey into the inner universe of the human brain, a vast cosmos of signals, rhythms, and gentle mysteries. Let your breath settle, let your body rest, and allow these quiet reflections to carry you towards stillness and sleep. You may notice, as you let your breath settle into its natural rhythm, that the human brain has often been called an inner universe. The comparison is not accidental and not only poetic. The brain contains a scale of complexity so immense that, even after decades of careful study, scientists still find themselves humbled by how much remains unknown. Just as the night sky invites us to look up and wonder about distances and stars, the brain encourages us to look inward and sense the depth of our own being. This organ, soft and protected within the skull, weighs on average about 1.5 kilograms. It is not especially heavy compared to the rest of the body, and yet its contents create the very landscape of thought, memory, and awareness. Within it are around 86 billion neurons. Each of these cells, tiny and fragile, carries the ability to form connections with thousands of others. When you pause for a moment and imagine that number, billions of cells, each reaching toward thousands of neighbors, you begin to glimpse why people describe the brain as a cosmos in miniature. If you were to trace every possible connection, you would find networks of unimaginable size. The estimated number of synapses, the junctions where signals pass from one cell to another, is in the order of hundreds of trillions. Some researchers even suggest the figure could climb to a quadrillion. That word, quadrillion, is rarely used in everyday life because we so seldom encounter anything that vast. And yet, quietly, within each of us, such a scale exists. It is present right now, as you listen, as you breathe, as your thoughts drift like gentle currents. One way to sense this immensity is to think of the brain's wiring as a forest of branches. Each neuron extends long, delicate fibers, reaching out like roots and twigs. But unlike a forest that grows in one place, the neural forest is alive with movement. Electrical pulses travel along these branches in patterns of rhythm. They rise and fall, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, always adjusting to the inner environment. The brain is not static. It is a living cosmos, shimmering with signals that come and go in waves. Scientists sometimes use the metaphor of galaxies to describe these patterns. A single cluster of neurons can behave like a constellation, with activity lighting up in a recognizable shape. Then, in another moment, signals may shift and reorganize, forming a new constellation. Over time, these constellations merge into networks that guide everything from the movement of a hand to the forming of a memory. Just as galaxies contain countless stars, these neural networks contain countless points of activity, all glowing. In silent communication, the scale is not only vast in numbers, but also in speed. A signal can travel along a neuron at more than 100 meters per second. That is faster than the blink of an eye, faster than most of us can even imagine. And yet, when you observe yourself from within, the effect is gentle. You do not feel the storm of signals. You feel instead the calm surface of thought, the softness of awareness, the slow rhythm of being present. The inner cosmos is active, yet it offers you a sense of stillness. Another way the brain resembles a universe is in its layers. The surface, called the cortex, folds into grooves and ridges, creating a landscape of valleys and hills. If stretched flat, this surface would cover about the area of a large newspaper, yet in its folded state, it fits neatly inside the skull. Beneath the cortex lie deeper structures, each with their own roles, regulating breath, guiding emotion, storing memories. balancing movement. It is as if the brain holds continents and oceans within, each hidden beneath another, each contributing to the life of the whole dot. The comparison to the cosmos also extends to mystery. Astronomers know that much of the universe is made of dark matter, something that cannot be seen directly. In a similar way, neuroscientists recognize that much of the brain's functioning remains hidden. We can measure electrical signals, we can scan blood flow, we can model networks, but we still do not fully understand how all of this produces the simple sensation of being alive. In this mystery lies beauty. You may notice, as you listen, a sense of wonder at not knowing everything, and that is perfectly in order. Mystery allows the mind to rest. Consider, too, the brain's rhythms, like cosmic cycles. There are brain waves, patterns of electrical activity that shift with states of wakefulness and rest. When you are alert, waves are fast and frequent, like sparkling stars. When you are calm, they slow, spreading like soft ripples. During deep sleep, they become even slower, wide and rolling, like tides moving in the ocean. Each rhythm serves its purpose, guiding you through the day and night, supporting learning, memory, and recovery. The cosmos of the brain, just like the cosmos above, moves in cycles that sustain life. There is also the gentle balance between order and chaos. Galaxies form structures, but within them stars move in individual ways. In the brain, networks have patterns, but individual neurons fire unpredictably. This mixture of predictability and randomness is essential. Without order, thought would scatter into noise. Without variation, the mind would be rigid and unchanging. Together, they create a dynamic harmony, a cosmos that is both stable and flexible. And within all of this vastness, you may notice something simple. The brain is yours. It belongs to you, quietly supporting every breath, every sensation, every dream. You do not need to control its cosmos. It organizes itself. You can simply allow awareness of its immensity, as though gazing at a night sky inside your own head. You may let this awareness be soft, not demanding attention, only offering comfort. The cosmos of the brain is active, but you are free to rest within its rhythm. This sense of scale, billions of cells, trillions of connections, endless rhythms, is not meant to overwhelm. It is meant to reassure. The complexity of the brain shows that you are supported by something vast and ancient, refined by evolution across millions of years. It has carried countless humans before you, and it carries you now. That continuity is a form of safety. Just as the stars above continue their cycles, regardless of our worries, the brain within continues its work regardless of our concerns. You can let that knowledge bring a feeling of security, when you pause to reflect on the brain as cosmos. You may also sense humility. Just as we do not fully grasp the universe beyond Earth, we do not fully grasp the universe within. And that is all right. In fact, it allows for calm. There is no urgency to understand everything. There is only the gentle invitation to notice, to feel, to breathe. The cosmos of the brain unfolds quietly, without demand. So, as you rest with this thought, imagine that the inner sky of your mind is wide and calm. Each signal is a star. Each network is a galaxy. The whole is vast, but also tender. And within it, there is always space for stillness, space for breath, space for the soft rhythm of sleep. You may begin by noticing your own breath. As it rises and falls, you can imagine that same gentle rhythm mirrored in the brain. The human brain is not silent. It is alive with tiny signals, flowing through its cells in a constant, delicate dance. These cells are called neurons. They are the basic units of the nervous system, and they carry the power to sense, to connect, to communicate. Without them, the brain would be an empty organ. With them, it becomes a living network, as alive and dynamic as a forest of glowing threads. There are about 86 billion neurons in the human brain. Each one is small, yet complex. You may imagine them as slender trees, with a central trunk and many fine branches reaching outward. The trunk is the cell body, containing the nucleus, the tiny command center that holds the instructions for life. From this body extend two main types of branches. Some, called dendrites, are short and numerous. They receive incoming signals. Others, called axons, are long and thin. They send signals outward, sometimes across great distances within the body. At the tips of these branches, where one neuron meets another, there are spaces called synapses. They are not direct connections, but tiny gaps. To communicate, the sending neuron releases small chemical messengers, known as neurotransmitters. These drift across the gap and attach to receptors on the receiving side. In this way, the message continues, passed along from one cell to another. The whole process is both fragile and precise, like whispers traveling through a quiet room. Electrical pulses called action potentials make this possible. When a neuron becomes activated, a wave of electrical change moves along its axon. This wave is not like the current in a wire. It is slower and carried by ions, charged particles, moving in and out of the cell membrane. The action potential travels until it reaches the end of the axon. There, it triggers the release of neurotransmitters into the synapse. In this way, electricity becomes chemistry, and chemistry becomes communication. Different neurotransmitters carry different messages. Some excite the next neuron, urging it to fire its own signal. Others calm it down, reducing activity and creating balance. Glutamate, for example, is the main excitatory neurotransmitter, encouraging signals to flow. GABA, by contrast, is the main inhibitory one, offering a quieting influence. Together, they create harmony, a balance between activity and rest. This balance is essential because without it, the brain would fall into chaos, either overexcited and unstable or too silent. To function. Among these chemical messengers are also those that shape our feelings and moods. Serotonin influences well-being and calm. Dopamine is linked to motivation and reward. Acetylcholine supports attention and memory. Each of these molecules is small, invisible to the eye, yet together they shape the entire quality of experience. As you listen, you may find comfort in the thought that your feelings are supported by such natural flows. Tiny signals weaving the tapestry of consciousness. The speed of these signals is remarkable. An action potential can travel along an axon at over 100 meters per second. Imagine that faster than a heartbeat, faster than a blink. Yet when these signals reach the synapse, the process slows, because chemistry must take its turn. Molecules drift, bind, and release, all within thousandths of a second. This combination of speed and pause creates a rhythm, a cadence that allows billions of cells to coordinate without confusion. Neurons do not work alone. They exist in networks. A single neuron may connect thousands of others, receiving inputs and sending outputs, always adjusting to the flow of activity around it. The pattern of firing across a network is what creates thought, memory, sensation. It is never just one signal, but a chorus, many cells speaking together in patterns that shift moment by moment. You might imagine this as a field of fireflies. Each one blinks on and off, sometimes alone, sometimes in synchrony. From a distance, the whole field glows with living light. Supporting the neurons are glial cells, once thought to be passive, but now known to be vital. They provide nourishment, remove waste, and regulate the environment around neurons. Some wrap axons in a protective sheath of myelin, allowing signals to travel faster, with less loss of energy. Others guide the growth of new connections, or quiet excess activity to protect balance. Without glial cells, neurons could not survive. Together they form an ecosystem, each cell type caring for the others in a quiet partnership. What is striking is how the brain converts such small signals into large experiences. A thought begins as ions moving across a membrane. A memory forms as neurotransmitters strengthen or weaken a connection. A feeling of safety arises as networks coordinate across wide regions. These microscopic events, repeated billions of times per second, scale upward into the richness of life. In the stillness of night, you may find comfort in realizing that your awareness, vast and subtle, is grounded in the most delicate of signals. Communication between neurons is not rigid. It adapts. When signals are repeated often, synapses may become stronger, more efficient. This is the basis of learning and memory. When signals fall into disuse, synapses may weaken, pruning back to make room for new growth. This plasticity is what allows the brain to change, to recover, to continue shaping itself across a lifetime. The signals are not only messages, they are also instructions for building new pathways. You may notice how this constant flow resembles breath, inhale, exhale, inhibit, fire, rest. Each balance sustains life. And just as breath continues without effort, so too do the signals of the brain. They do not require conscious control. They simply unfold, second by second, guiding you through waking and through sleep. You may allow this awareness to bring ease, knowing that your mind carries itself, even as you rest. The elegance of cells and signals lies in their simplicity. A neuron does not know who you are. It only responds to changes in voltage, to molecules binding to receptors. And yet, from such simplicity emerges the vast complexity of thought, of memory, of imagination. This is the quiet miracle of the brain. Billions of small events, none aware of the whole, combine to create the fullness of consciousness. You are not required to solve this mystery tonight. You may simply rest within it, letting the signals continue their work. In this way, the brain's cosmos is sustained. Cells and signals, electricity and chemistry, all flowing in patterns of delicate rhythm. It is a music without sound, a dance without audience, yet it carries every experience you have ever known. When you sense this, you may feel both small and infinite at once. Small, because the elements are so tiny. Infinite, because their combination creates the boundless space of awareness. And so, as you let your breath continue softly, you might picture the neurons in your brain as a glowing forest, each cell lighting and dimming, each signal moving in gentle waves. Together they form your inner sky. And in that sky, there is always room for stillness, for safety, for sleep. You may notice, as your breath moves in its slow rhythm, that the brain is not a static structure. It is not a library of fixed shelves, nor a machine of rigid parts. Instead, it is a living web of networks in constant motion. Signals travel, shift, and reorganize. Activity rises and falls like the ebb and flow of tides. These networks are what allow the brain to think, to remember, to sense the world, and to rest. At the most basic level, a network is simply a group of neurons connected through their synapses. One cell passes a signal to another, and together they form a chain. But in the brain, chains are never linear. They weave into loops, branches, and layers. A single neuron can belong to many networks at once, sending one signal here, receiving another there, participating in multiple patterns simultaneously. This overlapping, this fluid belonging, is what gives the brain its flexibility. Imagine, if you like, that each neuron is a musician. Alone, it can play a note, but together, in an ensemble of billions, they create symphonies. The music is not written on paper. It emerges from the interaction itself. At one moment, the orchestra may play softly, supporting the calm of rest. At another, it may play rapidly, energizing thought and attention. The melody shifts, not because a conductor dictates every detail, but because the musicians respond to each other moment by moment. This is how networks move, in self-organizing patterns that are never entirely the same twice. Some of these networks have names. The default mode network, for example, becomes active when the mind drifts inward. It supports daydreaming, reflection, and the wandering of thought. When you are not focused on a task, this network hums gently in the background, connecting distant parts of the brain into a web of inner narrative. Another is the salience network, which helps decide what deserves attention. It detects what is important in the moment, guiding the shift between rest and focus. Then there is the central executive network, active during tasks that require working: memory, reasoning, and decision-making. These three large networks, default mode, salience, and executive, weave together to balance thought, reflection, and action. Beyond these, there are sensory networks, each specialized to process sight, sound, touch, taste, and smell. There are motor networks, guiding the coordination of movement. There are emotional circuits, linking the limbic system with higher thought. None of these stand alone. They overlap, intertwine, and constantly adjust their communication. The brain is never a single spotlight. It is always a stage of shifting lights, turning on and off across many regions. The movement of networks is not random. It follows rhythms. Some neurons fire in synchrony, like waves rolling together. Others fire in staggered patterns, like ripples meeting from different directions. This synchrony allows distant regions to coordinate. When neurons oscillate at the same frequency, they can communicate more effectively, binding information into a coherent whole. For example, when you look at an image and recognize it as a face, networks in the visual cortex synchronize with networks in memory and emotion. In an instant, perception becomes recognition, and recognition becomes meaning. These rhythms come in different ranges, often called brain waves. Gamma rhythms are fast, supporting attention and learning. Beta rhythms are slightly slower, linked to active thought. Alpha rhythms mark calm wakefulness, the state of quiet readiness. Theta rhythms emerge in drowsiness and early sleep, supporting memory consolidation. Delta rhythms are the slowest, carrying the deep rest of dreamless sleep. Each rhythm is like a tempo, guiding the networks into states that match the needs of the moment. What makes networks truly remarkable is their adaptability. Connections strengthen or weaken depending on use. When a pathway is traveled often, signals move more easily along it. When it is neglected, the path fades. This constant adjustment is called plasticity. It allows the brain to learn, to recover from injury, and to reshape itself throughout life. Networks are not hardwired. They are living, breathing patterns, always in motion. You may notice how this resembles the rhythm of your own body. Muscles tense and release. Breath flows in and out. A heart beats, sometimes fast, sometimes slow. In the same way, networks shift between activity and rest. They surge when needed, and they quiet when the moment passes. The beauty is in the balance. A brain does not demand constant effort. It knows how to let go, to allow cycles of stillness. Researchers sometimes compare neural networks to weather systems. Clouds gather, winds shift, storms build and dissolve. Yet within the apparent unpredictability, there are patterns. So too in the brain, networks rise and fade, cluster and scatter, creating a dynamic climate of thought. Sometimes the climate is bright and focused. Sometimes it is soft and drifting. Both states are natural. Both are necessary. The movement of networks is also what makes memory possible. When you recall something familiar, networks that were once active together reassemble, replaying their pattern. The very act of remembering is a network returning to its earlier shape. It may not be exact. Some details may change, some edges may blur, but the overall pattern carries the essence of the past into the present. In this way, memory is not a single place in the brain. It is a living network, revived each time you think of it. Even imagination arises from networks in motion. When you picture something that does not exist, the brain recruits sensory networks to simulate the experience. Visual areas light up as if you were truly seeing. Auditory regions hum as if you were truly hearing. The default mode network weaves these fragments together, creating the story of what might be. Networks create reality, but they also create possibility. It is important to recognize that networks thrive on cooperation, not competition. No single region controls the brain. Even the so-called centers, like those for speech or vision, are only parts of broader patterns. The richness of human experience comes from integration, many networks moving together in harmony. In times of stress or imbalance, this harmony may falter, and signals may lose their rhythm. But in moments of rest, the balance is restored. Networks find their natural pace again, like water settling after a ripple. And so, as you continue to breathe softly, you may imagine your brain as a sea of signals. Networks rise like waves, connect and recede. Some patterns bring focus, others bring calm. Together they sustain the continuity of your mind. You do not need to manage them. They move on their own, carrying you through waking hours and into sleep. The lesson of networks in motion is one of trust. Just as the body breathes without command, the brain organizes itself without demand. Its networks are alive, flexible, endlessly adjusting. You may allow yourself to rest in that knowledge. Your brain is always at work, always in motion, gently supporting you. And if you picture the brain's activity as a sky of stars, you might see not a static constellation, but shifting patterns of light. Each moment, a new design appears. Each moment, it fades and transforms. The sky is never fixed, but it is always there, glowing quietly, carrying the rhythm of life. You may begin by noticing the rhythm of your own breath, inhaling, exhaling without force. This quiet cycle is one of the oldest companions of the human brain. From the moment of birth until the last moment of life, breath and brain move together in continuous partnership. The connection is intimate, both mechanical and subtle. The brain directs breathing, yet at the same time, breathing shapes the brain. Deep within the brainstem lies a cluster of neurons called the respiratory center. These cells generate the rhythm of breathing automatically, like a natural metronome. Even when you are not aware of it, even while you sleep, this center maintains the cycle. It monitors levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the blood, adjusting breath as needed. This process is effortless, ancient, and dependable. The brain ensures survival through breath, But breath does not only serve biology, it also shapes awareness. Each inhalation sends signals through sensory pathways. The movement of air in the nose activates receptors that communicate with the olfactory bulb, a structure closely linked to areas of memory and emotion. With every breath, subtle information flows to the limbic system, reminding the brain of the body's state. This is why slow breathing often brings calm. It tells the brain, in simple rhythm, that safety is present. The pace of breathing influences brain rhythms more broadly. Studies show that slow, deep breaths synchronize activity across networks, especially those involved in attention and emotional regulation. Inhalation tends to increase alertness, while exhalation encourages relaxation. Together, they form a cycle of balance. You may notice, as you listen, how each breath has its own tone, the quiet rise of focus, the gentle fall of letting go. When people practice mindful breathing, the effects can be profound. Slower rhythms reduce activity in the amygdala, the brain's alarm system. They strengthen connections between the prefrontal cortex and regions of calm control. This is not magic, but physiology. The vagus nerve, a long pathway connecting brain and body, carries signals from the lungs and heart back to the brain. When breathing slows, the vagus nerve conveys safety. The brain responds by easing heart rate, relaxing muscles, and softening thoughts. There is also a connection to memory. Breathing through the nose has been shown to enhance recall and recognition. This happens because the act of inhaling activates the hippocampus, the structure essential for forming new memories. Each breath gently stimulates this region, as if rocking it into readiness. Exhalation, in turn, allows consolidation. The simple cycle of breathing becomes a rhythm for learning and remembering. In sleep, breathing takes on new roles. During deep sleep, breaths are slow and regular, supporting the brain's clearing processes. During dream sleep, the rhythm becomes more irregular, matching the vivid activity of the dreaming mind. In both states, breath remains linked to brainwaves, like two instruments playing in harmony. Even in the deepest rest, breath continues to anchor life. Cultural traditions have long sensed this bond. Practices like pranayama in yoga or controlled breathing in meditation are based on the insight that breath and mind are inseparable. Modern science now confirms what those traditions observed. Altering the rhythm of breath changes patterns of brain activity. Faster breaths bring arousal and readiness. Slower breaths bring calm and focus. Breath is both bridge and tool. Yet, you do not need to control it. The beauty of breath is that it continues on its own. You can simply notice it. The air comes in. The air goes out. Each cycle supports the brain, nourishing its cells with oxygen, carrying away carbon dioxide, and quietly synchronizing networks. Awareness of breath is enough to bring calm. Control is optional. Observation is sufficient. The relationship between breath and brain also reveals how body and mind are not separate. Breathing is a physical act, but its effects shape thoughts, feelings, and awareness. The brain does not float in isolation. It is anchored in the body, guided by the steady movement of air. Each inhalation is a reminder of connection. Each exhalation is a release into safety. From another perspective, breath is a rhythm that the brain uses to time itself. Just as the heart has a beat, the lungs provide a slower cycle. Neurons across the cortex subtly synchronize with this cycle, rising in activity during inhalation, lowering during exhalation. In this way, breathing acts as a clock, a background rhythm that guides the flow of signals. Thought, attention, and even perception follow its quiet pace. There is also gentleness in knowing that breath connects us to others. When groups of people breathe together, singing, chanting, or simply resting side by side, their heart rates and brain rhythms can synchronize. Shared breathing becomes shared calm. This effect has been measured in choirs, in meditation groups, even in the simple act of listening to the same story. The brain is sensitive not only to one's own breath, but also to the breath of those nearby. And so, breath becomes both intimate and universal. It belongs to you, yet it also connects you to the larger rhythm of life. Each breath is personal, carrying air into your lungs. But the air itself has passed through countless other beings, countless cycles of nature. Trees, oceans, and winds have shaped it. Your brain receives it as nourishment, as signal, as anchor. The brain's reliance on breath also highlights its vulnerability. A pause in breathing quickly changes brain activity. Within moments, networks begin to shift, seeking oxygen. Yet, this vulnerability also emphasizes resilience. The brain has protective mechanisms, reflexes that trigger breathing automatically, even against will. These safeguards ensure continuity, so that even when attention wanders, the rhythm endures. What emerges from all this is a picture of cooperation. The brain guides breath, and breath guides the brain. Each cycle supports balance between alertness and calm, between focus and rest. You may sense, as you listen, that your own breath is part of this larger pattern. It is both ordinary and profound, both simple and essential. So you can allow breath to be a companion. No need to control it, no need to analyze it. Simply notice that it flows. With each inhalation, your brain is gently awakened. With each exhalation, it is gently soothed. Together, these cycles create space for calm, for safety, for sleep. As you let your breath settle, you may notice a gentle truth. Every thought, every sensation, every quiet dream requires energy. The brain, though it weighs only about 2% of the body's mass, consumes around 20% of its energy. This small organ, soft and folded within the skull, is constantly at work. Even when you rest, even when you sleep, it draws fuel, transforming it into the delicate patterns of signals that create awareness that the source of this energy is glucose. Carried in the blood, glucose enters brain cells through special transporters. Inside, it is broken down in a series of steps, releasing energy in the form of molecules called ATP adenosine triphosphate. ATP is the immediate fuel for neurons, the currency they spend to move ions, to release neurotransmitters, to maintain the balance of their membranes. Each action potential, each tiny signal, requires this energy. You may imagine ATP as countless small sparks, each one spent to keep the cosmos of the brain alive. Oxygen plays its part as well. Neurons need a constant flow of oxygen to fully release the energy stored in glucose. This is why blood vessels lace through the brain so densely. If you could see them, you would find a network of capillaries, so fine that nearly every neuron has its own supply. With each heartbeat, oxygen and glucose arrive, fueling the signals. The brain cannot store much energy for later. It depends on this constant delivery, moment by moment, like waves washing onto a shore. The energy is not used evenly. Some regions of the brain draw more than others, depending on activity. When you focus on a task, visual areas may glow with demand. When you listen to sound, auditory regions rise. When you dream, networks of imagination surge. Yet even at rest, energy consumption remains high. The so-called default mode network, active during reflection and wandering thought, draws heavily on fuel. The brain is never idle. Its cosmos is always in motion, always spending energy. One striking fact is that signals themselves are not the main expense. Much of the brain's energy goes into housekeeping, keeping the environment stable, maintaining ion gradients across membranes, recycling neurotransmitters. These hidden processes ensure that neurons are ready to fire again, to sustain their rhythms. It is like the quiet work of caretakers in a city, sweeping streets, repairing lights, unseen but essential. Without this constant care, the visible life of thought could not continue. Astrocytes, a type of glial cell, help manage this economy. They store small amounts of glycogen, a reserve of energy, and release it when neurons need extra support. They regulate blood flow, widening capillaries to deliver more glucose where activity increases. They recycle neurotransmitters, preventing waste and imbalance. In this way, astrocytes act as guardians of the brain's energy, ensuring smooth flow and gentle balance. The brain's energy use also explains why rest is essential. During wakefulness, waste products accumulate, byproducts of constant activity. One of these is beta amyloid, a protein that, if not cleared, can form deposits linked to disease. During deep sleep, the brain's cleaning system, called the glymphatic system, becomes active. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through channels, washing away the debris. Energy use shifts from active signaling toward restoration. Sleep is not wasted time. It is essential maintenance. You may notice how this balance resembles breathing. Inhale, exhale. Activity, rest. During the day, energy fuels thought and action. During the night, energy supports repair and renewal. Both are necessary. Both are part of the rhythm of life. Just as the cosmos of neurons cannot fire endlessly without pause, neither can the body remain alert without sleep. The energy of thought requires cycles of recovery. When energy supply falters, the brain responds immediately. Low blood sugar can bring dizziness, confusion, or fatigue. Lack of oxygen can cause disorientation within seconds. These vulnerabilities highlight the brain's dependence on constant support. Yet they also emphasize resilience. The brain can adapt by using other fuels, such as ketones, produced when the body breaks down fat. In times of scarcity, neurons adjust their metabolism. Continuing to sustain awareness. Energy also shapes emotions. Dopamine release, linked to motivation, depends on the availability of energy. Serotonin balance, tied to calm and well-being, is influenced by metabolic processes. Even the ability to focus attention is an energy-intensive act. Fatigue is not. Only in the muscles. It is in the networks of the brain, reminding us that fuel has limits. Respecting those limits is part of care. What is remarkable is how efficiently the brain uses its fuel. For all its complexity, the entire organ consumes about as much power as a dim light bulb, roughly 20 watts. With that modest amount, it creates perception, memory, imagination, and consciousness itself. You might reflect on how extraordinary it is that something so vast arises from so little. The cosmos of the brain glows brightly on the energy of a small flame. Energy is not only consumed, but also regulated. Hormones like insulin and cortisol influence how glucose is delivered and used. The brain, in turn, sends signals to appetite centers, guiding when to eat, when to rest. This two-way dialogue between body and brain ensures survival. It is not only about fuel, but about balance. Balance between need and supply, between hunger and satisfaction, between wakefulness and sleep. You may notice how thinking itself can feel effortful. Solving a problem, holding information in mind, or sustaining attention brings a subtle sense of strain. This is the brain's energy in action, The strain is real, not imagined. Networks demand more glucose, more oxygen, and the body responds. When the demand continues too long, fatigue arises. The brain asks for pause, for stillness, for recovery. Listening to that request is a way of honoring the energy of thought, and yet, even in stillness, the brain consumes much. Rest does not mean silence. It means a shift of patterns, a different allocation of fuel. Dreams, memories, the wandering of imagination. All of these are energy intensive, but they serve their purpose. They renew learning. They prepare the mind. They maintain the cosmos within. Energy is always flowing, always in use, but never wasted. So, as you rest, you may allow yourself to feel supported by this constant economy. Your brain is at work, but it is also caring for itself. Every cell is nourished. Every network is maintained. The fuel arrives with each breath, with each heartbeat, with each quiet moment of sleep. You are sustained by a flow older than thought, older than memory. The energy of thought is not something you need to manage. It unfolds naturally, guided by the rhythms of life. You can simply notice that it exists, that every awareness is a spark, every memory a flame, every dream a quiet glow. Together, they form the light of consciousness, steady and enduring. And as you continue to breathe softly, you may imagine your brain as a lantern. Its flame is small, but it lights an entire inner cosmos. The energy flows gently, never hurried, never forced. And in that light, there is always space for calm, for rhythm, for sleep. You may notice, as your breath flows in its steady rhythm, that memory is always with you. Every sound you recognize, every word you understand, every sense of who you are depends on memory. The brain holds these traces of experience not as rigid files, but as living paths. Each memory is a network, formed by signals that once moved through the brain and left behind patterns of connection. When you first encounter something new, a face, a voice, a place, sensory signals travel into the hippocampus, a structure, deep in the temporal lobe. The hippocampus acts like a gateway, receiving fragments of information from across the brain. It weaves them into a temporary pattern, binding sights, sounds, and feelings together. At first, this pattern is fragile. If interrupted, it may fade. But with repetition, or with the quiet reinforcement of sleep, the pattern grows stronger, shaping a path that can be followed again. This process is called encoding. It is the first step of memory, the laying down of a trail. Encoding depends on attention. When you notice something closely, networks fire in synchrony, and the hippocampus receives a strong signal. When you are distracted, the signal is weaker, and the path may not form clearly. In this way, memory begins not with perfect recording, but with selective focus. What you attend to becomes what you are most likely to remember. Once encoded, memories move into consolidation. This is the gradual process by which temporary patterns become more stable, distributed across the cortex. The hippocampus plays its role like a teacher, replaying activity during rest and sleep, guiding other networks to adopt the pattern. During deep sleep, slow waves ripple through the brain, carrying fragments of recent experience. These waves help shift memories from short-term traces into long-term paths. By morning, the fragile has become more enduring, but even long-term memory is not fixed. Each time you recall an event, the path is reactivated, and in that reactivation, it can be altered. Details may change, emotions may shift, new associations may be added. This is why memory feels vivid yet unreliable. It is alive. It is not a static archive, but a garden, where each visit may leave footprints, moving soil, planting seeds. Over time, the garden grows and changes, shaped by use. There are different kinds of memory, each with its own paths. Episodic memory is the recall of personal experiences, moments in time, tied to places and feelings. Semantic memory is knowledge of facts and concepts, not tied to a particular event. Procedural memory is the learning of skills, like riding a bicycle or playing an instrument. Each type engages different networks, yet all rely on the principle of paths formed and reinforced by activity. The brain's pathways of memory are supported by plasticity. Synapses strengthen when signals fire together, a principle often summarized as cells that fire together, wire together. This strengthening, called long-term potentiation, increases the efficiency of transmission. When a pathway is used repeatedly, neurotransmitters are released more effectively, receptors respond more readily, and the signal flows with less effort. In this way, practice truly builds memory, sculpting the brain itself. At the same time, unused connections weaken. This pruning is not loss, but adaptation. It clears space for new learning, prevents clutter, and refines networks. The paths of memory are not endless corridors, but well-tended trails shaped by what is meaningful and used. Forgetting, in this sense, is not failure, but function. It allows the brain to remain flexible, open to new experiences. Emotion also shapes memory. Events that carry strong feelings, joy, fear, sadness, wonder, are more likely to be remembered. The amygdala, an almond-shaped structure near the hippocampus, plays a role in tagging memories with emotional weight. This tag makes the memory more salient, more likely to be replayed and reinforced. Yet even here, the process is gentle. Not every detail is saved. What remains is the essence, the meaning carried by the event. The paths of memory are also influenced by context. Returning to a familiar place may bring back forgotten experiences. A scent, a song, or a taste can suddenly unlock networks that seemed silent. These cues act as keys, reactivating the patterns once laid down. This is why memory can feel like traveling through time. A path once quiet is lit again, guiding awareness to a moment long past. Working memory, by contrast, is immediate and fleeting. It is the capacity to hold a few pieces of information for seconds, to solve a problem, or follow a sentence. Working memory depends on networks in the prefrontal cortex, sustained by ongoing activity rather than lasting changes. It is like a temporary workspace, cleared quickly when the task ends. Yet it too relies on paths, circuits that keep signals alive just long enough to bridge thought. What is striking is how memory paths are shared across networks. No single location stores a memory in full. Instead, vision contributes images. Hearing contributes sounds. The body contributes sensations. And the hippocampus binds them together. Later, when you recall, these same regions light up again, reconstructing the experience. Memory is not retrieved like a photograph from a drawer. It is rebuilt each time from distributed traces. This rebuilding explains why memory feels both stable and fluid. The path is familiar, but each walk along it is slightly different. Details fade, new impressions color the old. Memory is a living dialogue between past and present. It reminds you of continuity, but it also adapts to who you are now. In this way, memory is not only storage but growth. Sleep is one of the brain's greatest allies in this process. During dreams, the hippocampus and cortex replay fragments of experience, weaving them into broader networks. Sometimes the fragments are obvious, sometimes abstract. Either way, the rehearsal strengthens the paths. This is why problems often feel clearer after rest, and why new skills improve overnight. Sleep is not the absence of memory, but its deep workshop. You may notice, as you reflect on this, that memory paths are not only about knowledge, but about identity. Who you believe yourself to be is a weaving of remembered moments, reconstructed each day. And yet, the fragility of memory shows that identity itself is fluid, capable of growth and change. This is not cause for worry, but for comfort. Just as the brain is never fixed, neither are you. So, as your breath continues in its calm rhythm, you might imagine memory as a set of soft trails in a forest. Some are well-worn, clear, and easy to follow. Others are faint, overgrown, waiting to be rediscovered. Each step you take on these trails shapes them further. Each night, the forest reshapes itself, tending to paths, opening new ones, letting others fade. And within this living landscape, there is always room for rest. The paths of memory are not something you need to control. They unfold naturally, guided by use, by emotion, by sleep, by time. You may simply allow them to exist, to carry you gently through the continuity of life. And as they do, they remind you that the cosmos of the brain is not only vast in space, but also in time. Each memory is a star in that inner sky, glowing softly, guiding your way, while leaving space for dreams yet to come. You may notice, as your breath continues in its slow rhythm, that emotions rise and fall in much the same way. They are not constant, and they are not random. They move in patterns, guided by the brain's networks. Emotions are often described as feelings in the heart or in the body, but their origins lie deeply within the brain. They are signals of meaning, ways the brain translates the world into experience. At the core of this system lies the limbic network. It is not a single structure, but a set of regions working together. The amygdala, the hippocampus, the hypothalamus, and parts of the cingulate cortex. Each contributes its role, like instruments in a gentle ensemble. The amygdala detects significance, especially when something may be threatening. The hippocampus ties emotions to memory, giving experiences their context. The hypothalamus sends signals to the body, adjusting heart rate, hormones, and appetite. Together, they form a cycle that transforms perception into feeling. The amygdala often receives attention in science writing, sometimes described as the brain's alarm. This is true in part. When something sudden or uncertain happens, the amygdala activates quickly, preparing the body for response. But it is not only about fear. The amygdala also responds to joy, surprise, and even curiosity. Its role is not to create anxiety, but to highlight importance, to mark what matters in the moment. Balance comes from the interplay between these emotional centers and the prefrontal cortex, the region behind the forehead. The prefrontal cortex helps regulate, shaping raw signals into calm responses. It can quiet the amygdala when the danger is past, or amplify positive signals when safety is assured. This dialogue creates emotional balance, a steady rhythm between alertness and calm. You may sense how this balance mirrors your own breath. Inhalation can bring energy, alertness, readiness. Exhalation can bring calm, release, letting go. In the same way, the brain alternates between states of arousal and states of rest. Neither is wrong. Both are necessary. Balance is not the absence of emotion, but the gentle rhythm of rising and falling states. Neurotransmitters support this balance as well. Serotonin contributes to feelings of contentment and stability. Dopamine adds motivation and reward, the spark of anticipation. Oxytocin fosters trust and connection, binding emotions to social bonds. Each of these molecules flows through networks, shaping how we feel and how we relate to others. The chemistry is delicate, but it creates harmony. One of the quiet strengths of the brain is its ability to regulate emotions through connection with the body. The vagus nerve, which runs from the brainstem through the heart and lungs, carries signals in both directions. When breathing slows, the vagus nerve tells the brain that calm is present. When the brain senses safety, it eases the body into rest. This two-way dialogue creates a loop of reassurance. Emotions are not isolated in the mind. They are embodied, lived through the whole being. Memory also plays a role. The hippocampus ensures that emotions are tied to context. A sound may startle you in the dark, but when recalled in daylight, it becomes harmless. This linking of past and present helps prevent overreaction, allowing emotions to be appropriate to the situation. Without memory, emotions would be raw, unanchored signals. With memory, they become stories, connected to meaning. Another part of balance is adaptation. Emotions are not fixed. They shift with learning. When a once feared event repeats without harm, the brain adjusts, reducing the response. This is called extinction, a gentle fading of unnecessary alarm. Conversely, when joy is repeated, the brain strengthens those pathways, encouraging approach and curiosity. Emotional balance is therefore a form of plasticity, the brain reshaping itself in response to experience. Sleep contributes to this balance as well. During dreaming, especially in REM sleep, the brain replays emotional events, often softening their intensity. It is as if the mind rehearses, re-experiences, and gradually integrates feelings. By morning, emotions often feel less sharp, less overwhelming. The dreaming brain has worked through them, restoring balance. This is why sleep is such a natural ally for emotional well-being. Social connection is another regulator. Human brains are designed for interaction. When we see a friendly face, hear a calm voice, or feel a supportive touch, networks of safety activate. Oxytocin rises, the amygdala quiets, and balance is restored. The presence of others can soothe, just as the presence of breath can. In this way, emotional balance is not only internal but shared. You may notice how emotions, when balanced, bring clarity. They do not disappear, but they no longer dominate. They flow gently in the background, guiding without overwhelming. This state of balance allows focus, learning, and rest. The brain does not seek to eliminate emotions, only to harmonize them. The fragility of balance reminds us of its importance. Stress, fatigue, or illness can tilt the system, making emotions sharper or less stable, but the brain is resilient. It can return to balance through rest, through breath, through connection. Like a pendulum, it may swing, but it finds its center again. What emerges is an image of emotions as waves, rising and falling on the surface of the brain sea. The amygdala sends ripples, the cortex calms them, neurotransmitters color them, and memory shapes their meaning. Together, they create the experience of being human. Balanced, these waves carry you gently, allowing you to rest in their rhythm dots. So, as you continue listening, you may allow yourself to feel the quiet assurance that your emotions are not random storms. They are signals of meaning, guided by networks that seek balance. You do not need to push them away or hold them tightly. You may simply notice their flow, knowing that balance is always possible. And in that noticing, you may find calm. The brain's networks are already working for you, shaping emotions into harmony. All you need to do is rest within that harmony, letting it carry you towards stillness, towards safety, towards sleep. As you let your body rest, you may notice that sleep itself is not simply the absence of wakefulness. It is its own state, full of quiet activity, guiding the brain through cycles of repair and renewal. Sleep is not wasted time, nor empty hours. It is one of the most important rhythms of life, allowing the brain to restore balance, conserve energy, and clear away what is no longer needed. From the outside, sleep looks passive. The body lies still, the eyes closed, the world quiet. But inside the brain, complex patterns unfold. Neurons change their firing rhythms, networks shift, and chemical balances are reset. Sleep is a landscape of stages, each with its own purpose. Each contributing to repair. The cycle begins with light sleep. In this stage, brain waves slow slightly, and muscles relax. It is a transition, a gentle descent. Then comes deep sleep, also called slow wave sleep. Here, brain activity moves in large, slow oscillations. These waves help reset networks, reducing unnecessary activity and strengthening essential pathways. Deep sleep is restorative, allowing energy to be conserved and cells to recover. During deep sleep, the glymphatic system becomes active. This system, discovered only recently, acts like a cleansing tide. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through the brain's tissues, washing away metabolic waste, including proteins such as beta amyloid that accumulate during wakefulness. Without this nightly cleansing, the brain would carry more debris, increasing risk of dysfunction. Sleep is therefore not only for the mind, but for the physical health of the brain itself. After deep sleep comes REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Sleep. Here, the brain's activity becomes vivid, almost as active as in wakefulness. Dreams unfold, colorful and often strange. Yet beneath the dream images, important processes occur. Emotional memories are integrated, creativity is supported, and networks are reorganized. REM sleep helps balance mood, softening sharp feelings and weaving experiences into broader patterns of understanding. Throughout the night, the brain cycles. Between these stages, light sleep, deep sleep, REM in repeating patterns of about 90 minutes. Each cycle brings its own kind of repair. Deep sleep renews the body and clears the brain. REM sleep processes emotions and memory. Together, they form a balanced rhythm, ensuring that by morning, the brain is restored and prepared for anew. Day. Sleep also supports plasticity. During waking hours, synapses, the connections between neurons, strengthen as you learn, observe, and act. If this strengthening continued endlessly, networks would become saturated, unable to adapt. Sleep provides balance. Some synapses are scaled back, trimmed, and recalibrated, preventing overload. Others are reinforced, preserving what matters. In this way, sleep refines the pathways of memory and learning, keeping the brain flexible. Hormones play a role too. During sleep, levels of growth hormone rise, supporting repair of tissues and promoting healing. Cortisol, a stress hormone, falls, giving the body and brain a chance to recover. The balance of neurotransmitters also shifts, resetting sensitivity and preparing for wakefulness. Sleep is not just a pause, but a carefully orchestrated repair process. You may notice how sleep influences emotions. Without enough rest, the amygdala becomes more reactive, and the prefrontal cortex struggles to regulate it. The result is greater irritability, sharper anxiety, less balance. With sleep, the amygdala calms and regulation is restored. Dreams, in particular, help process emotional experiences, allowing them to soften and integrate. In this way, sleep is a natural therapy, performed quietly each night. The immune system also benefits. During sleep, certain immune cells become more active, strengthening defenses against illness. Inflammation decreases. Healing accelerates. The connection between brain and body is evident. Sleep restores both. Without it, vulnerability rises. With it, resilience grows. Energy balance is another gift of sleep. The brain consumes much energy during the day, leaving behind waste and fatigue. Sleep conserves energy by reducing activity, while also renewing stores of glycogen in supporting cells like astrocytes. This ensures that neurons are prepared for another cycle of wakefulness. You may imagine this as a gentle refueling filling. Reservoirs drop by drop until they are full again by morning. Cultural traditions often sensed this wisdom. Sleep was seen not only as rest, but as healing. Phrases like "sleep on it" reflect the knowledge that problems feel lighter after a night's rest. That insight comes when the brain has had time to repair. Modern science now confirms what people long suspected. Sleep is essential for clarity, balance, and health. What is remarkable is that sleep does not require effort. It comes naturally when the brain and body are ready. You do not need to control its cycles. They unfold on their own. The brain knows when to enter deep waves, when to drift into dreams, when to rise toward waking. All you need is the willingness to let go. The repair will happen gently, quietly, without your direction. Sometimes people worry when sleep does not come easily. But even short moments of rest bring benefits. Lying still, breathing softly, allowing the mind to drift, these states already support repair. The brain takes what it can, adjusting rhythms, preparing pathways. Trusting this process is part of balance. Sleep will arrive when conditions are right, and even waiting can be restorative. So, as you rest tonight, you may allow yourself to feel the quiet assurance that your brain is repairing itself. Neurons are resetting. Networks are being cleared. Memories are being integrated. Emotions are softening. All of this happens without your effort, carried by rhythms older than words. You may imagine sleep as a gentle tide. With each wave, waste is washed away, energy is renewed, balance is restored. By morning, the tide will have left the shore clean and ready. All you need is to drift with it, to allow the cycles to carry you. Sleep and repair are not separate. They are the same. Sleep is the repair, and within it lies the quiet promise of safety, balance, and renewal. As you allow your breath to continue in its soft rhythm, you may notice that the mind, even in sleep, does not fall silent. It enters another state, the state of dreaming. Dreams are among the most mysterious and beautiful processes of the brain. They unfold when the body rests, when the outer world fades, and yet the inner cosmos continues to move in vivid activity. Dreams happen mostly during REM sleep, the stage of rapid eye movement. In this state, the brain's activity resembles wakefulness. Neurons fire in lively patterns, blood flow increases, and networks associated with vision, memory, and emotion come alive. The eyes move quickly beneath the eyelids, as though tracking images. Yet the body remains still, held in gentle paralysis by the brainstem. This balance allows the mind to wander safely, exploring inner landscapes while the body rests. The content of dreams can be strange, shifting, and surreal. Scenes appear and dissolve. People come and go. Time flows in unusual ways. For a long time, such oddness made dreams seem meaningless. But science has shown that dreams serve important functions. They are not random noise. They are rehearsals, reorganizations, and expressions of the brain's deep rhythms. One purpose of dreaming is memory processing. During REM sleep, the hippocampus and cortex interact, replaying fragments of recent experience. These fragments are woven into broader networks, linking new knowledge with old. The strangeness of dreams may reflect this weaving, as unrelated elements combine into new associations. When you wake, you may not remember the details, but the brain has already done its work, strengthening paths, pruning others, preparing you for learning. Dreams also serve emotion. The amygdala and limbic system are highly active in REM sleep. Emotional memories are replayed, often with softened intensity. In this way, the dreaming brain helps regulate mood, easing the sharpness of experience. Nightmares may arise when emotions remain unresolved, but even then, they reflect the brain's effort to process what feels overwhelming. By morning, balance is often restored. Creativity, too, has roots in dreaming. By combining fragments in unusual ways, the brain explores possibilities it would not attempt in waking logic. Artists, scientists, and thinkers have long drawn inspiration from dreams. But even without conscious recall, everyone benefits from this creativity. The dreaming mind tests new patterns, experiments with ideas, and strengthens the flexibility of networks. It is a nightly rehearsal for imagination. The brainstem plays a crucial role in initiating dreams. Signals rise from deep structures, activating the cortex. Neurotransmitters like acetylcholine surge, supporting vivid imagery, while norepinephrine and serotonin fall, reducing external awareness. This chemical balance allows the brain to turn inward, creating an inner stage of experience. The stage is not empty, but filled with the material of memory, emotion, and sensation. Though REM sleep is the main theater of dreams, they can also appear in non-REM sleep. These dreams tend to be less vivid, more fragmentary. They reflect different processes, such as memory consolidation during slow-wave sleep. Taken together, the whole night becomes a canvas, with dreams painted in different layers, some bold, some faint, all contributing to repair. The meaning of dreams has fascinated humans for millennia. Cultures have seen them as messages, prophecies, or reflections of the soul. Modern science views them as processes of the brain, but this does not reduce their mystery. A dream remains a unique experience, shaped by personal history, emotions, and imagination. It is both universal and individual, shared by all yet belonging to each alone. One gentle truth is that you do not need to remember your dreams for them to matter. The brain benefits from dreaming whether or not the waking mind recalls it. The rehearsal, the emotion, the creativity, all occur quietly, even if memory of the dream fades at dawn. This is why many people say, "I did not dream," when in reality, the dreaming mind was active. Simply leaving no trace in conscious memory. Dreams also reveal the brain's freedom. In waking life, perception is tied to the outer world. The eyes, ears, and senses anchor experience. In dreams, the brain is freed from this tether. It creates its own world with its own rules. The experience may feel real because the same networks of vision, motion, and emotion are active. Yet it is entirely internal. The brain is both the creator and the audience of its inner play. The balance between dreams and waking is delicate. Just as the day shapes what is dreamed, the night shapes what is remembered. This cycle ensures that emotions are softened, memories are integrated, and creativity is nurtured. The dreaming mind is not separate from waking life, but a partner. In its rhythm, there is also a gentle protection in the paralysis of REM sleep. Without it, the body would act out the dream, moving with each imagined step. By holding muscles still, the brain ensures safety. Only small twitches remain, subtle, signals that the dream is alive. This safety allows the mind to wander freely, to explore without risk. Sometimes, dreams carry recurring themes: flying, falling, searching, kneeing. These patterns reflect common human concerns, universal threads of meaning. They show that, beneath individual stories, the dreaming mind touches shared foundations. The cosmos of the brain is vast, but in dreaming, it often echoes the same rhythms across many lives. You may notice how dreams, like breath, follow cycles. They come and go through the night, each one lasting longer toward the morning. The early cycles hold more deep sleep, more repair of the body. The later cycles hold more REM, more repair of the mind. By dawn, the dreaming mind has had its time, leaving the waking mind refreshed. So, as you rest, you may allow yourself to feel gratitude for dreams. Whether you remember them or not, they are working for you. They are weaving memory, softening emotion, exploring imagination. They are carrying you through the night with quiet purpose. The dreaming mind is not something you need to control. It arises naturally, guided by rhythms older than thought. You may simply allow it, trusting that it brings balance. And when you wake, you carry its benefits, even if you do not carry its stories. So tonight, as your breath continues softly, you might imagine your mind as a theater. The stage lights dim, the curtain rises, and the play begins. You do not need to watch. You only need to rest. The dreaming mind will perform its work, quietly repairing, gently renewing, until morning comes. You may notice, as your breath moves softly, that the mind does not simply receive the world passively. It chooses, gently but continually, what to focus on. This capacity is called attention, and it is one of the most remarkable functions of the brain. Attention allows the vast sea of signals to be narrowed, selecting a few currents to follow while letting the rest drift in the background. Without attention, the world would feel overwhelming. With it, experience becomes manageable, coherent, and meaningful. At its simplest, attention is the act of highlighting. When you look at a face in a crowd, when you follow a melody in a busy street, when you read a line of words, your brain selects some signals and suppresses others. Neurons in sensory areas adjust their firing, amplifying relevant patterns, quieting distractions. This selection does not happen once, but continuously, shifting moment by moment, guided by need and context. Several networks support this process. The dorsal attention network, involving regions of the parietal and frontal cortex, helps direct focus outward, guiding the eyes and senses toward chosen objects. The ventral attention network, by contrast, detects unexpected events, ready to shift attention when something new or important appears. Together, these systems balance stability and flexibility, keeping focus steady yet adaptable. Attention is also shaped by the salience network, which evaluates what matters. A sound may be ignored if it is ordinary, but the same sound may draw focus if it carries emotional or social meaning. The salience network helps decide when to stay and when to shift, when to hold steady and when to explore. It acts as a quiet guide, whispering to the rest of the brain what deserves energy. The prefrontal cortex, especially, plays a role in sustaining attention. It provides top-down control, maintaining focus on a task even when distractions arise. It works in partnership with deeper structures, like the thalamus, which acts as a relay, filtering sensory input. This partnership is what allows you to hold a thought in working memory, to finish a sentence, to complete an action without scattering into noise. But attention is not only effort, it has states of ease as well. One of these is called flow. Flow is the experience of being fully absorbed in an activity, so engaged that time seems to soften and distractions fade. In flow, networks of attention, reward, and emotion harmonize. The prefrontal cortex quiets slightly, reducing self-consciousness. Dopamine flows steadily, providing gentle motivation. Brainwaves shift into rhythms that balance focus with calm. The experience feels effortless, even though it may involve skill. Flow shows that attention can be more than strain. It can be a natural rhythm like breath. When conditions are right, clear goals, balanced challenge, intrinsic interest, the brain enters flow without command. The networks align, the signals converge, and awareness settles into a single stream. This is not forced concentration, but a state of harmony. You may notice that attention, like breath, has cycles. Sometimes it is sharp and narrow, focused on detail. Sometimes it is wide and diffuse, open to the background. Both are useful. Narrow attention allows precision, problem-solving, and learning. Wide attention allows rest, creativity, and awareness of the whole. The brain shifts between them naturally, guided by context. There is no need to hold one state forever. Balance is what matters. Emotions influence attention as well. Interest, curiosity, and joy pull focus naturally. Stress and fear can also sharpen attention, but often in rigid ways, narrowing the field too tightly. Calm emotions, by contrast, allow flexibility, making it easier to shift smoothly between tasks. The brain thrives when attention is balanced, not too scattered, not too locked. Sleep supports attention too. After rest, the networks of focus are more resilient, the prefrontal cortex more capable of guiding signals. Without sleep, attention falters, flickers, and drifts. This is why tiredness makes it difficult to concentrate, why thoughts wander despite effort. Sleep restores the capacity to choose, to guide, to enter flow. Attention is also social. When two people speak, their brain rhythms can synchronize, aligning in patterns of oscillation. Eye contact, tone of voice, and shared focus create a resonance, allowing communication to flow more easily. This shows that attention is not only individual, but relational. It connects one mind to another through rhythm and alignment. The fragility of attention reminds us to treat it gently. Distractions are not failures. They are natural shifts in salience. The mind wanders, and that wandering can be useful, linking distant ideas, allowing creativity. Returning to focus is not about force, but about soft guidance, like steering a boat with small adjustments. Each return strengthens the path, training networks without strain out. You may imagine attention as a beam of light. Sometimes it narrows, shining brightly on one object. Sometimes it widens, illuminating the whole scene. The brain adjusts the beam constantly, balancing clarity and openness. Flow is when the beam rests naturally, steady and smooth, lighting the path without effort. So, as you continue breathing softly, you may allow yourself to feel that attention too is rhythmic. It rises, it falls, it sharpens, it softens. There is no need to hold it rigidly. Trust that your brain knows how to shift, how to guide itself toward balance. When focus is needed, it will come. When rest is needed, it will come. And in moments of harmony, flow will arise, carrying you gently, like a current, through thought and time. Attention and flow are not demands but gifts. They show the brain's ability to balance effort with ease, control with surrender. You may simply rest. In that balance, letting your own awareness drift where it needs. knowing that each shift is part of the rhythm of the inner cosmos. You may notice, as your breath continues softly, that the brain is not fixed. It is alive, changing, responding. This ability to change is called plasticity, and it is one of the most profound qualities of the nervous system. Plasticity means that the brain is not only a structure, but also a process, a living pattern of pathways that adapt to experience. From the first days of life, plasticity shapes development. A newborn's brain has billions of neurons, but many of their connections are still forming. In the early years, synapses multiply rapidly, far more than will eventually be kept. This abundance provides flexibility, allowing the brain to adapt to whatever environment it encounters. Through use and experience, some connections strengthen, others fade. The result is a network tailored to the individual's world. The principle is simple. Pathways that are used grow stronger. Pathways that are unused grow weaker. Scientists often describe it as use it or lose it. When signals repeatedly travel on a route, the synapses involved become more efficient. Neurotransmitters are released more easily. Receptors respond more quickly, and supporting cells reinforce the path. This process is called long-term potentiation, and it is the foundation of learning and memory. At the same time, weakening has its role. When a pathway is not used, synapses may shrink or disappear. This pruning clears away clutter, reduces noise, and makes room for new growth. Forgetting is not failure. It is adaptation. By removing unnecessary connections, the brain becomes more efficient. The garden of plasticity thrives not only on growth, but also on careful trimming. Plasticity continues throughout life. In childhood, it is especially strong, allowing rapid learning of language, movement, and social patterns. In adulthood, it remains, though somewhat less flexible. Even in old age, the brain can form new connections, adapt to new skills, and recover from injury. This persistence of plasticity is what allows humans to continue learning, to heal, and to grow at every stage of life. Recovery from injury shows plasticity most clearly. When part of the brain is damaged, as in a stroke, other regions can sometimes take over its functions. Pathways reorganize, signals find new routes, and abilities can return with practice. Rehabilitation exercises harness plasticity, guiding the brain to build alternative circuits. The process is slow but real, a testament to the adaptability of networks. Plasticity is also influenced by environment and experience. Enriched environments, with stimulation, learning, and social interaction, encourage growth of synapses. Stressful environments, by contrast, can reduce plasticity, making the brain less flexible. This is why rest, safety, and support are so important. They provide the conditions in which plasticity can flourish, allowing the brain to adapt positively. Exercise contributes as well. Physical activity increases blood flow to the brain, delivering oxygen and nutrients. It also stimulates the release of growth factors, such as BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. These molecules support the survival of neurons, encourage the growth of new synapses, and even promote the birth of new neurons in certain regions, such as the hippocampus. In this way, movement supports the very capacity to learn and adapt. Plasticity also explains habits. When actions are repeated often, pathways become stronger and more automatic. This is why skills, once practiced, become effortless, and why habits, once formed, are hard to change. But plasticity also allows change. By practicing new behaviors, the brain gradually reshapes its networks, weakening old patterns and strengthening new ones. This requires time, but it is always possible. Emotion and plasticity are closely linked. Positive experiences, joy, and curiosity tend to strengthen learning, while chronic stress can impair it. Cortisol, the stress hormone, when prolonged, can damage connections in the hippocampus, reducing memory capacity. By contrast, calm and supportive states allow plasticity to thrive. In this way, emotional balance is not only comfort, but also nourishment for the brain's adaptability. Sleep is another ally of plasticity. During rest, the brain consolidates learning, replaying patterns of activity from the day. Synapses are strengthened or scaled back, depending on need. Dreams weave experiences into broader networks, preparing the mind for future challenges. Without sleep, plasticity is blunted. With it, learning and adaptation are enhanced. Plasticity also underlies imagination. When you picture something new, the brain recruits old pathways and recombines them in novel ways. This flexibility of networks allows not only problem solving, but also creativity. By reshaping connections, the brain explores possibilities beyond direct experience. Creativity, in this sense, is plasticity at play. The beauty of plasticity is that it is continuous. Every experience, every practice, every memory leaves a trace. The brain is never exactly the same from one moment to the next. This does not mean it is unstable. It means it is alive, responsive, always adjusting. Like a river, it holds continuity, but its waters are always new. You may notice how comforting this is. Plasticity means that change is always possible. Skills can be learned, habits can shift, recovery can happen. Even when challenges arise, the brain retains its capacity to adapt. This resilience is not forced. It is natural. The brain is built to grow, to heal, to adjust. So as you breathe gently, you may imagine your brain as a living forest. Some paths are wide and well-trodden. Others are faint and new. Each step you take strengthens a trail. Each rest allows others to fade. The forest reshapes itself continually, balancing growth and pruning. This is plasticity, the quiet adaptability that sustains you throughout life. And as you rest, you may allow yourself to feel supported by this adaptability. You do not need to control it. You do not need to force it. Plasticity is already present, shaping your brain with each moment, each breath, each night of sleep. It is the gentle promise that you are never fixed, always capable of change, always part of the living rhythm of the inner cosmos. You may notice, as your breath continues in its steady flow, that rhythm is already present in you. The beat of the heart, the cycle of inhaling and exhaling, the rise and fall of awareness, all are rhythms. The brain, too, is filled with rhythm, and among the many forms of rhythm in life, music is one of the most powerful. Music reaches into the brain deeply, stirring networks of memory, emotion, and movement, often all at once. When sound waves enter the ear, they set the eardrum vibrating. Tiny bones pass these vibrations to the cochlea, a spiral structure lined with delicate hair cells. Each hair cell responds to a particular frequency, translating vibration into electrical signals. These signals travel along the auditory nerve, into the brainstem, then onward to the auditory cortex in the temporal lobe. Already, rhythm has become signal, sound has become perception, but hearing music is more than hearing sound. The auditory cortex detects pitch, tone, and timing, but other regions join in as well. The motor cortex, normally devoted to movement, responds to rhythm, preparing the body to tap, sway, or dance. The limbic system, seat of emotion, lights up in response to melody, shaping feelings of joy, sadness, or calm. The prefrontal cortex links music to attention and expectation, predicting what note might come next. Music engages the brain as a whole, weaving together sensation, action, and emotion. One of the most remarkable effects of music is its link to memory. A melody heard long ago can return instantly, bringing with it the emotions and context of the past. This happens because music activates not only auditory areas, but also the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, regions essential for memory. Rhythms and melodies create strong cues, easy to recall. For people with memory difficulties, familiar. Songs can awaken recognition, unlocking paths that seemed lost. Emotion is also carried by rhythm and tone. Slow, steady rhythms often bring calm, lowering heart rate and soothing the nervous system. Fast, irregular rhythms can excite, raising alertness and energy. Minor keys may evoke melancholy, while major keys often feel bright. These associations are partly cultural, partly rooted in biology. The brain mirrors rhythm with its own patterns of neural firing, aligning inner states with outer sound. Neurotransmitters support this effect. Music can increase dopamine, the chemical of reward and motivation, giving rise to pleasure and anticipation. It can also release oxytocin, fostering social bonding, especially when people sing or play together. Cortisol, the stress hormone, often decreases with calming music, easing tension. In this way, music is not only heard, but felt throughout the whole body. Rhythm connects us to movement as well. Even without conscious effort, people often tap a finger, nod a head, or sway to music. This happens because the motor system is tightly linked to auditory rhythms. Neurons in the premotor cortex and basal ganglia synchronize with beats, preparing muscles to move. This synchronization brings a sense of unity between sound and body, between outer rhythm and inner motion. Cultures around the world have used rhythm for connection. Drums, chants, and songs create shared experiences, aligning brain rhythms across groups. When people sing together, their breathing synchronizes, their heart rates align, their brain waves converge. Music becomes a form of collective regulation, guiding many bodies into one rhythm. This is why songs often accompany rituals, celebrations, and ceremonies. Music binds individuals into community. Science has also shown that rhythm can support healing. Music therapy helps reduce anxiety, improve mood, and even support rehabilitation after stroke. Rhythmic cues can guide movement, helping patients regain walking patterns. Melodies can stimulate speech in people with language difficulties, encouraging words to return through song. These effects arise because music recruits multiple networks, bypassing damaged areas and finding new paths. The brain's response to music is not limited to trained musicians. Everyone, regardless of skill, carries sensitivity to rhythm and tone. Even infants respond to lullabies, calming with gentle melodies. This universality suggests that music is woven into human nature, not only as entertainment, but as a form of regulation and connection. There is also mystery in why music feels so powerful. A sequence of notes has no survival value on its own, yet it can move us to tears or joy. Perhaps music is meaningful because it reflects the rhythms already inside us: heartbeat, breath, neural oscillations. When outer sound aligns with inner rhythm, the brain resonates, and the experience feels profound. Flow states often arise with music. When absorbed in listening or when playing an instrument, attention narrows, time softens, and the brain enters harmony. Networks of focus, reward, and emotion align, creating calm engagement. This is why music can be both stimulating and relaxing, both energizing and soothing. It carries the balance of effort and ease, And just as with memory and learning, repetition shapes musical paths. Songs heard many times become familiar, their rhythms easier to predict. The brain finds comfort in this predictability, enjoying the balance between expectation and surprise. New melodies may feel exciting, but familiar ones feel safe, like returning to a well-worn trail in the forest of the mind. Music also influences sleep. Gentle rhythms can slow breathing, reduce heart rate, and guide the brain toward calm states. Lullabies, used across cultures, reflect this wisdom. Even without words, the patterns of tone and rhythm tell the brain it is safe to rest. The nervous system responds, easing into stillness. You may notice, as you reflect, that music and rhythm are not separate from life. They are woven into its fabric. Each heartbeat is a drum. Each breath is a melody. The brain listens not only to external songs, but also to the inner music of the body. Recognizing this brings comfort, that rhythm is always present, supporting you. So, as your breath continues, you may allow yourself to imagine your brain as an orchestra. Neurons fire in patterns, like instruments playing together. Some provide steady beats, others flowing melodies. The result is harmony, the music of consciousness itself. You do not need to conduct it. You only need to let it play, knowing that the rhythm of life is always present, always carrying you gently, always guiding you toward rest. You may notice, as your breath flows gently, that the brain does not live apart from the body. Though it is often described as the control center, it is not separate, not aloof. It is connected through countless pathways, nerves, hormones, rhythms of circulation. Every beat of the heart, every movement of the lungs, every subtle change in the gut sends signals to the brain, and in turn, the brain responds. The two are not master and servant, but partners in constant dialogue, at the foundation of this partnership is the nervous system. The spinal cord carries bundles of fibers that extend into the body, reaching muscles, organs, and skin. Sensory nerves bring information inward, the pressure of touch, the warmth of temperature, the pain of injury. Motor nerves send instructions outward, to contract, to relax, to move. Within this exchange, the brain and body form a loop, perception, guiding action, action shaping perception. The autonomic nervous system adds another layer. It regulates functions beyond conscious control: heart rate, digestion, sweating, and more. Within it are two main branches. The sympathetic system prepares the body for action, raising heart rate, increasing alertness, directing energy to muscles. The parasympathetic system restores calm, slowing heart rate, encouraging digestion, guiding the body into rest. The brain shifts between these states naturally, balancing readiness with recovery. The vagus nerve plays a central role in this balance. Extending from the brainstem through the chest and abdomen, it carries signals in both directions. When the body rests, the vagus nerve informs the brain of safety. When the brain senses calm, it sends signals through the vagus to slow the heart, ease breathing, and relax tension. This gentle loop of reassurance is one of the most important bridges between brain and body. The heart is a constant partner in this dialogue. With each beat, it sends signals through baroreceptors, sensors in the arteries, up to the brainstem. These signals shape awareness of internal state, known as interoception. The brain listens to the rhythm of the heart, adjusting attention and emotion. When the heart races, the brain interprets urgency. When the heart slows, the brain interprets calm. This is why breathing steadily can steady the mind, because brain and body move as one. The gut is another partner. Within its walls lies the enteric nervous system, sometimes called the second brain. It contains millions of neurons that regulate digestion, but also send messages upward through the vagus nerve and chemical signals. These messages influence mood, memory, and even decision-making. The gut microbiome, the trillions of microbes living inside, produces neurotransmitters like serotonin, shaping how the brain feels. The partnership of brain and gut shows how inseparable body and mind truly are. Hormones provide a slower, but equally important channel of communication. The hypothalamus, deep in the brain, directs the pituitary gland, which releases hormones that influence growth, stress, reproduction, and metabolism. Cortisol rises in response to stress, mobilizing energy. Melatonin rises in darkness, preparing the body for sleep. Oxytocin flows during bonding, fostering trust and connection. These chemical messengers ensure that the body and brain act as a unified whole, attuned to both environment and inner needs. The immune system also speaks to the brain. When the body detects infection, immune molecules called cytokines travel to the brain, influencing mood and behavior. Fatigue, reduced appetite, and the desire to rest during illness are not weakness, but coordinated responses, ways for the body and brain to focus energy on healing. The brain, in turn, regulates immune activity, ensuring balance between defense and calm. Gut movement highlights the partnership in another way. When you walk, signals flow from the brain to the muscles, guiding contraction. At the same time, feedback from joints and skin informs the brain of posture and balance. This loop allows graceful motion, even without conscious thought. Athletes and dancers refine these loops until they feel effortless, but even simple steps rely on constant dialogue. The body is not merely commanded. It responds, adjusts, and guides the brain as well. Emotion, too, is embodied. Fear quickens the heart. Joy lightens posture. Sadness slows breath. These bodily states are not side effects of emotion, but part of emotion itself. The brain interprets them, weaves them into awareness, and creates the felt sense of being. In this way, feelings arise not only from the brain, but from the partnership of brain and body, inseparable, continuous. Pain illustrates the same truth. It begins with receptors in the skin or organs, but the experience of pain is created in the brain. Signals travel upward that are shaped by attention, expectation, and emotion. The body provides information, the brain interprets it, and the result is the conscious feeling of discomfort. Pain is not only a signal of injury, but also a dialogue influenced by both body and mind. This partnership is also rhythmic. The body sends constant patterns, heartbeat, breath, hormonal cycles, and the brain synchronizes with them. Neural oscillations often align with bodily rhythms, creating coherence. This alignment supports health, balance, and calm. When rhythms are disrupted through stress, irregular sleep, or illness, the brain feels unsettled. When rhythms are restored, the brain regains calm. You may notice, as you reflect, that this partnership is gentle. The brain does not command like a ruler. It listens, responds, adjusts. The body does not serve silently. It guides, informs, and shapes the brain's awareness. The two are woven together, threads of one fabric. Caring for the body is therefore caring for the brain. Nutritious food provides fuel for neurons. Movement stimulates blood flow and growth factors. Rest restores rhythms. Social connection, laughter, and touch release chemicals that nourish both body and mind. The partnership is not only biological, but also lived. Every choice, every rhythm, every breath supports both. The beauty of this connection is that it works without effort. You do not need to direct your heart to beat, or your gut to digest, or your lungs to breathe. The brain and body guide each other naturally. All you need is to allow, to trust, to rest on. So as your breath continues, you may imagine your brain and body as two dancers. One leads for a moment, then follows. The other responds, then guides. Together, they move in balance, graceful and inseparable. And within this dance lies safety, calm, and the quiet rhythm of life. You may notice, as your breath moves gently in and out, that calmness is not something you must invent. It is already present, waiting beneath the surface, ready to be uncovered when safety is felt. The brain has evolved to protect, to detect danger, but also to recognize when danger is past. This recognition of safety is what allows calm to rise. At the heart of this balance is the autonomic nervous system, with its two branches. The sympathetic system prepares the body for action. Heart racing, muscles tense, senses sharp. The parasympathetic system restores rest. Heart slowing, breath deepening, muscles releasing. These two branches are not enemies, but partners, shifting as needed. Calm arises when the parasympathetic system is allowed to take the lead, guiding the body into rhythms of ease. The vagus nerve is central here. It carries signals from the brainstem into the heart, lungs, and digestive tract, and back again. When activated gently, it slows the heartbeat, eases breath, and promotes digestion. This state is sometimes called the rest and digest mode. But more than digestion, it is the state of recovery, of safety. When the vagus nerve signals calm, the whole body feels at ease, and the brain responds with clarity and balance. The amygdala, known for detecting threats, also quiets in safety. When external signals show that no danger is present, soft voices, familiar faces, steady rhythms, the amygdala reduces its alarm. The prefrontal cortex, seat of regulation, and supports calm by interpreting events as safe. This partnership creates a feedback loop. Calm thoughts reassure the amygdala, and a quiet amygdala allows calm thoughts. You may notice how sensory cues contribute to this state. Gentle light, steady sound, the softness of touch, all signal to the brain that it may relax. Harsh, sudden, or chaotic stimuli do the opposite, keeping the nervous system alert. This is why environments matter. A quiet room, a regular rhythm, a soft breath all help the brain to recognize safety. And safety allows calm. Neurochemistry supports this state as well. Oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, rises during safe connection, bringing warmth and trust. Serotonin supports stability and contentment. Endorphins ease tension, providing comfort. These molecules flow when the brain senses safety, reinforcing the calm state. They are the body's quiet reward for peace. Memory plays a role too. The hippocampus stores experiences of safety, places where rest was possible, people who were kind, rhythms that soothed. When you encounter something familiar, the hippocampus reminds the brain, this is safe. In this way, the past supports the present, and calm is built not only on the moment, but also on remembered comfort. Sleep depends on this balance. The brain will not enter deep rest if it senses danger. Even small alarms can disturb the rhythm of sleep, but when safety is assured, when the nervous system is soothed, when the amygdala is quiet, when the vagus nerve signals calm, the brain allows itself to drift. Calm is not separate from sleep. It is its doorway. Social connection is one of the strongest signals of safety. A calm voice, a gentle gaze, a reassuring presence tell the nervous system that all is well. This is why people sleep more easily near those they trust, why infants rest best in a caregiver's arms, why companionship eases fear. Safety is not only internal, but also shared. The brain listens to others as much as to itself. Stress, by contrast, narrows the world. It keeps the sympathetic system active, the amygdala alert, the body tense. In this state, calm feels distant, but the brain is resilient. Through breath, rhythm, and rest, it can return. A slow exhalation, a gentle pause, a quiet environment, each signals safety, nudging the system back toward balance. You may notice that calm is not the absence of activity. The brain does not stop. Neurons still fire. Networks still shift. Calm is a different kind of activity. Steady, rhythmic, balanced. Brain waves in the alpha range often rise, associated with relaxed wakefulness. These waves show that the brain is still alive with motion, but motion in harmony. The immune system benefits from calm as well. When the nervous system is at rest, energy can shift toward repair and defense. Stress suppresses immunity. Calm restores it. Healing, growth, digestion, and restoration all flourish in safety. Calm is therefore not luxury, but necessity. It is the ground from which health grows. Cultures have long recognized the importance of calm. Rituals of rest, meditation, prayer, and music all create signals of safety, guiding the brain into balance. Science now confirms what tradition observed. Calm states support resilience, learning, and longevity. The nervous system thrives when given moments of quiet. You may imagine calm as a wide, steady lake. Stress may stir waves, winds may ripple the surface, but beneath, the water remains deep and still. The brain carries this stillness within. By breathing slowly, by resting gently, you allow the surface to settle and the depth of calm to be felt. Safety and calm are not things you must chase. They are already within your nervous system, ready to rise when conditions allow. You can trust that your brain knows how to enter this state. Breath by breath, signal by signal, it returns naturally, guiding you toward rest. So, as you continue to listen, you may allow yourself to feel this truth. Safety is not absence of all challenge, but presence of balance. Calm is not emptiness, but harmony. And within this harmony, the brain finds what it needs: clarity, resilience, and the gentle rhythm that carries you toward sleep. You may notice, as your breath moves softly, that time itself shapes the brain. Just as trees add rings and rivers carve valleys, the brain changes across the years. This process, often called aging, is not simply loss. It is adaptation, balance, and continuity. The aging brain carries the traces of experience, the strength of resilience, and the softness of letting go. From early adulthood into later life, neurons remain, networks endure, but subtle changes unfold. Some synapses weaken, some pathways become less efficient, and processing speed may slow. Tasks that once felt effortless may take a little more time. But alongside these shifts, other qualities emerge: deeper patterns of knowledge, richer emotional balance, and greater perspective. Aging is not only decline, but transformation. One of the earliest changes is in memory. Short-term recall may become less sharp. Names or details may slip more easily. This reflects a gradual reduction in the efficiency of the hippocampus, the structure vital for forming new memories. Yet older adults often excel at semantic memory, knowledge of facts, language, and concepts. Life experience strengthens these networks. providing a vast store of understanding that younger minds have not yet built. The prefrontal cortex, central for planning and decision-making, also changes with age. It may shrink slightly in volume, and its networks may fire less quickly. But at the same time, older adults often show greater balance in emotional regulation. The amygdala responds less strongly to negative stimuli, while positive emotions are preserved or even enhanced. This positivity effect suggests that the aging brain becomes more selective, focusing on what brings meaning and calm. Plasticity remains throughout life, though its pace slows. The brain continues to form new connections, especially when challenged with learning, exercise, and social engagement. Even in later decades, new neurons can emerge in the hippocampus, a process called neurogenesis. This quiet growth shows that aging is not an end to change, but a continuation of it, softened in rhythm, but still alive. The balance of neurotransmitters also shifts. Dopamine, linked to motivation and reward, may decline gradually, contributing to slower initiation of action. Serotonin and acetylcholine may also change, influencing mood and memory. Yet lifestyle, movement, rest, nutrition, and connection can support these systems, keeping them active. The aging brain is sensitive, not only to biology, but also to environment. Sleep patterns often adjust as well. Deep, slow-wave sleep may shorten, while lighter stages of sleep extend. This can make nights feel more fragmented. Yet the cycles of repair continue, ensuring that memory and emotion are still supported. Gentle routines, steady rhythms of light, quiet, and rest help the brain to align its cycles, preserving calm through the night. The body and brain also remain in dialogue. As vascular health changes, blood flow may decrease slightly, influencing energy supply. Supporting the heart supports the brain, for the two are inseparable. Exercise, even gentle movement, increases circulation, nourishing neurons with oxygen and glucose. The aging brain thrives when the body moves, reminding us that health is always shared. Emotion and wisdom are perhaps the most remarkable gifts of the aging brain. With years of experience, networks of memory and reflection provide perspective. Older adults often show greater resilience to stress, a capacity to see challenges in context. This emotional regulation reflects not only biology, but also the accumulation of lived experience. The aging brain carries stories, and those stories shape calm. There are, of course, vulnerabilities. Cognitive decline, dementia, and neurodegenerative diseases become more common with age. These conditions reflect changes beyond typical aging, where proteins misfold or cells are lost. But even in the face of these challenges, the brain shows resilience. Other networks often compensate, families and communities provide support, and individuals continue to experience meaning. Aging is complex, but it is not simply fragility. It is adaptation. Social connection remains vital. Isolation can quicken decline, while companionship supports resilience. When people share conversation, laughter, or simply presence, brain networks of reward and safety remain active. Oxytocin flows, cortisol decreases, and calm is sustained. The aging brain thrives not in solitude, but in connection, just as it did in youth. Learning also continues to support plasticity. New skills, reading, music, languages, crafts, encourage the brain to form fresh connections. Curiosity keeps networks alive. Even simple mental engagement, like puzzles or conversation, provides stimulation. The brain, at any age, responds. To challenge with adaptation, what emerges is a picture of aging as a shift in balance. Speed may lessen, but depth increases. Recall of detail may fade, but wisdom expands. Emotional storms may soften, replaced by steadier calm. The brain, like the body, finds new rhythms, slower but often richer. You may notice how this parallels nature. A young tree grows quickly, stretching upward, forming many new branches. An old tree grows more slowly, but its trunk is strong, its roots deep, its presence enduring. The brain too changes pace, but it does not lose its essence. It holds strength, depth, and memory in its form. The aging brain is therefore not something to fear. It is a continuation of the same adaptability carried through decades of life. It holds the capacity for calm, for connection, for growth, even as it changes. It is not fixed at any age, but always moving, always reshaping itself. So as you rest with this thought, you may allow yourself to feel the quiet dignity of aging. Whether young or old, your brain is alive, adapting, resilient. Time shapes it, but time also enriches it. And within its rhythms lies safety, memory, and meaning. The aging brain is not the end of the story. It is another chapter, slower, perhaps, but deeper. And in its balance lies a reminder that calm and wisdom grow not in spite of age, but because of it. You may notice, as your breath flows steadily, that the journey through the brain has revealed not just parts and processes, but a sense of something greater. Each neuron, each signal, each rhythm is small on its own, but together they form a cosmos, an inner universe vast and mysterious, yet always within you. From the first moments of life, this universe begins to unfold. Neurons reach toward one another, forming pathways. Networks awaken, shaping sensations and movements. Memory begins its quiet weaving, emotion begins its gentle rhythm, and awareness rises like light. Over decades, the brain continues to grow and adapt, always alive, always changing. The inner universe is never still, never finished. This cosmos is immense in scale. Billions of neurons, trillions of connections, endless waves of activity. Signals rise and fall faster than thought, yet the experience feels soft, steady, continuous. Like stars in the night sky, neurons flicker with energy, forming patterns that create perception, memory, imagination. Each thought is a constellation, each dream a galaxy, each memory a pathway in this inner space. And yet, for all its complexity, the brain offers calm. Beneath the rapid firing, beneath the constant motion, there is balance. Networks synchronize into rhythms. Breath aligns with neural oscillations. Heartbeats echo through the nervous system. The cosmos of the brain is dynamic, but it is also harmonic. This harmony is what allows you to rest, to feel safe, to sleep. Within this universe lies memory, trails that link past to present, guiding. Identity. Within it lies plasticity, the power to change, to adapt, to heal. Within it lies emotion, waves of feeling that rise and fall, balanced by calm. Within it lies imagination, the ability to dream beyond what is, to picture what could be. These elements are not separate. They weave together, forming a tapestry as vast as the sky. The brain's rhythms mirror the rhythms of nature. Just as tides rise and fall, brain waves shift from wakefulness to sleep. Just as seasons change, networks reorganize across the years. Just as stars burn and fade, synapses strengthen and weaken, keeping the system alive. The inner universe is not isolated from the outer. It is part of the same pattern, repeating on different scales. You may notice that safety, too, is part of this cosmos. The nervous system detects when calm is possible, when rest can be allowed. It slows the heart, eases the breath, softens the muscles. These signals ripple through the brain, reminding it that balance is here. Safety is not absence of change, but trust in the rhythm of change. The brain, like the cosmos, moves endlessly, and yet within that movement, there is order. Dreams reveal the depth of this inner space. In REM sleep, networks create entire worlds, vivid and strange, woven from memory and imagination. These dreams are not distractions, but processes of repair and integration. They show the brain's freedom, the ability to create realities from within, to explore galaxies of thought while the body rests. The inner universe does not stop at the edge of waking life. It continues through every night. Even in aging, the cosmos endures. Some pathways fade, some rhythms slow, but wisdom deepens, emotions soften, perspective broadens. The inner universe does not diminish. It changes shape. Like an old star, glowing with quieter light, it still carries immense energy, immense meaning. Aging shows that the cosmos of the brain is not measured only in speed, but also in depth. This universe is not something to control. You cannot command each neuron, direct each signal, or manage each rhythm. And you do not need to. The brain organizes itself, harmonizing countless processes without your effort. You are supported by it, carried by it, always. Your task is not to direct, but to allow, to let the inner cosmos unfold. You may imagine your brain as a sky filled with stars. Some flicker brightly, some glow faintly, some fade and reappear. Constellations form and dissolve, galaxies swirl, and all the while, the sky holds steady. That sky is within you. You are both observer and participant, both the space and the time. Awareness of the space. The vastness of this inner universe can bring humility. We do not fully understand how signals become thought, how rhythms become consciousness, how matter becomes mind. But we do not need to know everything to find peace. In it, mystery itself can be calming. The unknown is not a threat. It is a reminder of depth, a horizon that stretches beyond sight. And in this horizon lies reassurance. The brain has carried humanity through millennia, adapting, evolving, surviving. It carries you now with the same resilience, the same rhythm. You are not separate from this cosmos. You are its expression. Each breath you take aligns you with it. Each heartbeat resonates through it. Each moment of rest is a moment of harmony within it. So as you settle into calm, you may allow yourself to feel at home in this inner universe. It is vast, but it is yours. It is complex, but it is gentle. It is mysterious, but it is safe. You can rest in it, trusting its rhythms, letting its harmony carry you into sleep. The brain, your inner cosmos, continues always, signals rising, networks shifting, dreams unfolding. You do not need to watch over it. You only need to rest, allowing the inner universe to guide you gently, quietly, endlessly. This has been the Sleepy Brain Dose. As the rhythm of your breath continues softly, you may let the images of the inner universe fade into calm darkness. There is nothing more to do, nowhere more to go, only rest, safety, and the quiet drift into sleep.